Welcome. Hello, hello. Welcome. We've got a couple more seats down front. One or two around. And we're getting a couple other chairs on this side, so a few folks out. Got everybody here? All right. Lovely to see you all this evening. I'm Amy Ford. I'm the branch manager here at Lexington Park Library. Thank you for coming down to the beautiful Lexington Park Library and joining us this evening. This is Candidate Forum is also streaming live on our YouTube channel. So check out our YouTube channel. We have lots of other programs available here as well. And check out our events page on our website, stma.org, because we have lots of other events for citizens of all ages to come and participate. So many thanks tonight to St. Mary's County Government, who their PIO office is also recording this event. You'll find the recording of the event on their website after the forum. And many thanks to our co-sponsors of this event, the League of Women Voters, the NAACP 7025, and the Center for the Study of Democracy at St. Mary's College. I'm going to turn it over to Katie Warner from the League of Women Voters. Thank you, Katie.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? There we go. Just have to bend into it. Welcome to our 2024 primary election candidate forum. Before we get started, I ask that everyone turn off or silent your cell phones and any other noise-making devices. And I ask everyone if you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm Katie Warner, the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of St. Mary's County and your co-moderator tonight. Marsha Williams, President of NAACP, and Alonzo Gaskin, Second Vice President of the NAACP, will be my co-moderators this evening. We are pleased to partner with the St. Mary's chapter of the NAACP, the Center for the Study of Democracy at St. Mary's College, and the Lexington Park Library to bring you this forum. You can find more information about our organizations at the information table in the back. I ask that you consider joining our organizations. And before we begin, I do want to tell you a little bit about vote411.org, which I believe there's a demonstration set up in the back of the room if you're interested. We hope you'll take advantage of the information available there. You can go to the website, put in your address, and find answers to questions that each candidate was given. And a printed copy of that voter's guide is available in each of the libraries. Important dates to remember as it pertains to the primary: voter registration ends on April 23rd. May 2nd through May 9th is early voting. Bay District Firehouse, Hollywood Firehouse Main Building, and Mechanicsville Firehouse are the early voting locations. May 14th is the primary election. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you're voting by mail, drop boxes are at Bay District Firehouse, Great Mills High School, Hollywood Firehouse, Mechanicsville Firehouse, Spring Ridge Middle School, St. Mary's County Board of Elections, and the Valley Lee Firehouse. And May 28th is when voter registration reopens for the general election. If you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand. A runner will bring you an index card and, if needed, a pencil. We ask that you write your question briefly and legibly, being certain that it's relevant to the candidate seeking the office that is at the table. At the top of the card, you can write the name of the individual you want to address, or if you wish to ask all the candidates, just write all. Follow-up questions must also be submitted on cards. When you finish writing, hold up your card. A runner will come collect it and take it to our review panel over to my left. We ask that it's legible, appropriate to the office the candidate is seeking, civil, and stated politely. And we ask that you hold your applause until after all the candidates have answered their questions asked of them and made their closing remarks. Tonight, you will be addressing the candidates for the following primary election races: Judge of the Circuit Court, Judicial Circuit 7, St. Mary's County; Board of Education at Large, Board of Education District 2, Board of Education District 4. Each candidate will begin with a 3-minute opening statement before we begin questions from the audience. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each question asked. When the question period is over, each candidate may make a 2-minute closing statement. Our timer, Caroline Trosbach, has a computer timer and will signal the speaker with a yellow card at the 30-second mark, a red stop card when time is up. The speaker may finish the sentence, but nothing more. Remember, this is a respectful occasion, and we ask that you compose your questions in a civil manner and not to express support or opposition for any of the candidates of the forum. Finally, we ask that you hold your applause to the end of the evening. And then a special note about the judicial contest. Even though each candidate is on each political party's ballot, the state considers this a partisan election. What does that mean? It means that whoever wins the Democratic primary moves to the general election ballot, and whoever wins the Republican primary moves to the general election ballot. So it's possible that this election can be decided during the primary. From the 2012 Maryland Judicial Campaign Conduct Committee's report, if the public's constitutional right to an impartial judiciary is to be preserved, therefore it is essential that contested judicial elections and the inevitable debates among judicial candidates do not impair and are not perceived as impairing the ability of those candidates to decide controversies that come before them as judges without bias, prejudice, or predisposition. This year, the Maryland Judicial Ethics Committee issued an opinion regarding judicial debates and cited key provisions of the Judicial Code of Ethics. A judge shall abstain from public comment that relates to a proceeding pending or impending in any court and that might reasonably be expected to affect the outcome or impair the fairness of that proceeding. This rule does not prohibit a judge from making public statements in the course of official duties or from explaining for public information the procedures of the court. With respect to a case, controversy, or issue that is likely to come before the court, a judge shall not make a comment, pledge, or promise that is inconsistent with the impartial performance of the adjudicative duties of that office. And both judicial candidates are aware of the ethics opinion. And Mr. Alonzo Gaskin will be moderating the judicial candidate forum. So at this time, I'm going to ask that the candidates for judge for the circuit court come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alonzo Gaskin. I'm with the St. Mary's County NAACP. I have the honor of being the moderator for this section of the forum. And our ladies, Sue Ann Armitage and Amy Lorenzini, correct? Okay. Okay, our candidates. So now, ladies, you're closest, so we'll start with your 3-minute opening.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here this evening to express an interest in this important election. I am Judge Amy Lorenzini, your current circuit court judge here in St. Mary's County. I was appointed by Governor Hogan in 2022 after a thorough vetting process that started with interviews with 10 different public interest groups and bar associations. Those groups included the Women's Law Center, Maryland State Bar Center, and Maryland Association of Justice, among others. They then made recommendations to a judicial nominating commission and to the governor. They recommended each candidate is either highly qualified, qualified, not qualified at this time, or not qualified. All of the candidates then interviewed with the local nominating committee. It's a group made up of 13 individuals from the community, including lawyers. And that group then made a recommendation to the governor. I was told during that interview that I was the only candidate that got through the interviewing process with the public interest groups and the bar associations, with all highly qualified and qualified recommendations from those groups. I was then privileged enough to be one of the 3 individuals who were recommended to the governor, and then the governor fully vetted and interviewed each of the applicants. Fortunately, on May 11th of 2022, I received a phone call that I was appointed to the Circuit Court for St. Mary's County. I believe that happened for several reasons. One, my breadth of experience. I was a former prosecutor, former criminal defense attorney, and former trial attorney for 20 years prior to my appointment to the bench. I handled cases in the circuit court throughout the entire state of Maryland, including criminal law cases, civil law cases, appellate cases, administrative appeals, property law cases, and all kinds of other matters, including adoptions, guardianships, and family law cases. These are the same types of cases that I've been presiding over for the last 2 years. The second reason is my commitment to the improvement of the law. I've been actively involved in bar associations and other groups throughout the state of Maryland, including being on the executive committee of the Maryland State Bar Association, the Maryland Supreme Court Character Committee, the Maryland Professional Center, and local and state pro bono committees. The last is my dedication to the community. I spent 10 years as a project manager for Christmas in April. I initiated and managed a family law clinic for over 10 years. I volunteered with the PTO here in St. Mary's County, was an assistant soccer coach here in St. Mary's County. I was the St. Mary's County representative to the board for Calvert Marine Museum for 5 years, and I'm a member of the Hollywood Lions Club. On a personal note, I am married to a St. Mary's College graduate, my husband, Mike, and I have 2 children, both of whom were born here in St. Mary's County. Upon the birth of my second child, my daughter, about 15 years ago, we made the family decision to move into St. Mary's County because we wanted to raise our family here, and we've lived here ever since. Both of my children have attended the St. Mary's County Public Schools. My youngest is still in the 8th grade at Esperanza Middle School. So I'm personally invested in the safety of our children and community, and I want to continue doing a fair and firm job of being your judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening again. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to the Center for Study of Democracy, and thank you for the NAACP for this opportunity to present tonight and giving all of us an opportunity to be here this evening. I'm honored to be here. I'm also very grateful for all of you that have come tonight. I'm going to tell you the first thing I'm going to do once this is all over with, and I think you're all going to appreciate this. I'm going to quickly take down all the signs. There are a lot of signs up in this county. Let me, on a serious note, let me talk a little bit about myself. My name is Suzanne Armitage. I grew up in this county. This is my county. I grew up in Ridge. I want to say a stone's throw from here, but let's face it, Ridge is not a stone's throw from anywhere. I grew up in Ridge. My father was a retired Navy chief, a World War II vet. My mother raised 4 children, 4 girls. She had the tougher job of the family, right? Tougher than my dad's job. I grew up playing softball in every field in this county, starting from Southridge all the way up to Anderson's Bar and Back Road Inn. This is my county. I cut my feet on many oyster shells in the St. Jerome's Creek. This is my county. I went away to school and I came back. I chose to come back to my county to practice law. And that's what I've done for the last 33 years. I have practiced law in this county. Let me tell you, I got my first job, my first office. I came back to St. Mary's County, and there are 3 very important men that helped me. You might know some of them. You might have even bought insurance from them. Johnny Wood, John Bohannon Sr., and Ken Cross. Those 3 men knew that I was looking for an office. And those 3 men helped me get an office for free for almost 2 years. That's how much those people cared about this community and cared about me. And I'm seeking your vote for circuit court because I want to get back to the community. There's been a lot of talk about what I've done and what I haven't done. If you know me, you know I practiced law in this county for 33 years. I'm a litigator. I've done workers' comp cases. I've done estate cases. I've done family law cases. I've done criminal cases. I've done all types of areas of law. There's a lot of talk about family law. Suzanne does nothing but family law. Let me tell you why I do a lot of family law. 70% of the cases in this circuit court are family law cases. That's why I do a lot of family law, because 70% of those cases are family law. Let me tell you the difference between me and my opponents. I'm the only one standing here that's been practicing law, been a litigator for 33 years, almost 34 years. I'm the only one standing here that's owned a business in this county for over 30 years. And I'm the one who is going to focus on keeping our community safe. That's what's important. Thank you.
All right, ladies. For the live rounds. Question number one is for both ladies, and we'll start with Ms. Lorenzini, Mrs. Lorenzini. And the question is, can you explain your judicial philosophy so a layperson can understand it?
Thank you. My judicial philosophy is characterized by 5 principles. 1, I always come prepared and ready to listen to people on the bench. I work hard. 2nd, I afford all parties due process and fairness of law. 3rd, I listen to everyone. I don't jump to any conclusions, and I listen to all of the facts of the case. 4th, I maintain an open mind throughout the proceedings. And finally, I have no personal agenda. I uphold the rule of law by following the statutes and precedent and apply the law fairly and firmly in all of the decisions that I make. If you've come before me, you know I come prepared, I come ready to work, and I make decisions. Thank you.
Well, that was a great question, I might add. Clearly a good one because she had her notes ready to go for 5 points. I'm going to tell you my philosophy. I believe in being fair and impartial. If you've ever had me represent you, if you've ever been my client or you've been on the opposing side, you know that I'm always fair. I always try to look at the facts. I apply the facts to the law. That's what's important. Impartiality is very important. It's important for you to know, coming before a particular judge, that they have no biases. I do have some concern. There have been some issues about my opponent about biases. And I think it's important to understand that when we run for election, we must do what we're supposed to do, which means we must be unbiased, not take contributions from certain individuals that have come before you so that you can make an unbiased opinion. Due diligence is important. Hard work is important. I've always done that in my private practice, and I will bring that to the bench.
Ms. Lorenzini, this question is for you. How has your volunteer experience contributed to your decision-making as a judge?
Thank you. As an attorney for more than 20 years prior to being appointed to the bench, I was actively involved in the community. I've remained actively involved in the community since being appointed to the bench. As I mentioned earlier, I initiated and maintained a family law clinic, assisting people that were self-represented in family law cases for over 10 years. I was a participant in the Law Day here in St. Mary's County, assisting elderly members of our community with advanced directives and powers of attorney. I participated in Christmas in April for over 10 years and have been an active member of the State Bar Association and many other groups. I think what that's done is it's given me the opportunity to become very in touch with our community. I've been able to take that to the bench, and I've been able to apply that to the way that I treat folks every day that I'm sitting on the bench and the way that I know I would like to be treated in the community. I initiated a guardianship clinic since I've been appointed as the circuit court judge that helps people with guardianship cases as well. I will continue doing that to support the county. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Armitage, this question is for you. Why do you think it's important for you as a candidate for judge to seek the endorsement of the sheriff?
Well, our sheriff, our prior sheriff, 4-time sheriff, knows the community. He knows what it takes to protect the community. He understands the crime and issues of our community. And for Tim Cameron, our 4-time sheriff, to seek and give me the endorsement means he has trust and confidence in me that I will do the right thing for this community, that I have the stamina, the background, the experience, the tenacity, and the toughness to do what's right for our community. I am proud that Tim Cameron, our 4-time sheriff, has endorsed me, and I hope that you are also proud of what he's done for our community.
Okay, ladies, this is for both. How would you address the problem with hate crimes and violence among our youth? We'll start with you, Ms. Lorenzini.
Violence and hate crimes among our youth. As a judge, I am limited as to how I can address this question fully. What I can say is that as a judge, and over the last 2 years, I've sat and I've fairly listened to cases. I've listened to the issues that come before me, and I've made decisions about violence fairly and firmly. I listen to the parties. I make a decision based on those parts of sentencing that we need to consider as a judge. They include punishment, they include deterrence, they include rehabilitation. And I take each case and I make a decision based on each particular case that comes before me. I'm fair, I'm equitable, but I'm firm at the end of the day. I understand that may not address very specifically the issues that you raised, but based on what we heard from Ms. Werner earlier, addressing specific issues that may come before me as a judge is something I must avoid. So thank you.
My first day initiatives, I think, address this issue. One of my first day initiatives is the Juvenile Recovery Court. Hate crimes are very serious crimes, and we have no recourse for our youth except for the Juvenile Delinquency Court. Hate crimes can be addressed by rehabilitation and implementing mental health services. A lot of these hate crimes can be turned around by allowing these individuals to enter these type of rehabilitation services, such as mental health issues. Some of these hate crimes are perpetrated throughout their family. And I think if we could grab the youth now and be able to rehabilitate them before they end up in our adult court, that's what we need to do. So one of my first day initiatives is to re-implement the Juvenile Recovery Court to give them an alternative to incarceration.
Question for both ladies. How has your voluntary experience contributed to your decision-making as a judge? We'll start with you, Ms. Lawrence. Okay. No, not a problem. We do not suffer for questions. Both ladies, how do you plan to address children being placed in jail for minor offenses?
Am I starting?
Yes. No, but she was the last, so you go ahead.
Okay.
I'll mix it up for you.
No problem.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question for me?
Yes. How do you plan to address children being placed in jail for minor offenses?
So let me start with, I'm not aware in St. Mary's County of children being placed in jail for minor offenses. I'm not aware of that. We have a juvenile docket in St. Mary's County. We do have juvenile detention centers. If you're over a certain age and you're charged as an adult, then you may be held in an adult facility. You have the right to ask for waiver back to the juvenile court if you're held in an adult facility, but it only applies to certain cases. If you're charged with a crime that could carry with it a lengthy sentence or a life sentence, then you don't have the right to ask for it to be sent back to the juvenile court if you're 16 or 17 years of age. We are not left with an option under the law. Those juveniles must be held in an adult facility away from sight and sound of the adults. If you're under that, there are juvenile detention centers that a juvenile would be held in. Again, I'm not aware of any juveniles being held in detention facilities or adult facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. at the risk of repeating myself, I will say that I think we need to re-implement the juvenile recovery court. That gives an alternative to the youth so that they are not incarcerated. This juvenile recovery court will give youth services for mental health problems, services for drug and alcohol addiction. These are the types of services I think we need to provide to our youth so that they don't end up in adult court. So when you ask me, what can we do? That's what we can do. It's important that a judge keep thinking outside the box about changes that need to happen in our community. There are a lot of offenses that are being perpetrated by youth. We need to be thinking about what we can do to help them before they end up in adult court. So the juvenile recovery court would enable these youths to have an alternative to incarceration and get the mental health and addiction services that they so need and deserve.
Okay. Ms. Armitage, this is also for you. How do you think your extensive pro bono work over many years in St. Mary's County will inform your work as a judge?
It's so important to give back to your community. And as I said, so many people have given to me and enabled me to have the position that I have today. So pro bono work has been one of the most important things that I do and like to do. I started out my pro bono work by representing victims of domestic violence. Very, very sad cases. Most of them women, sometimes men, that got caught in the cycle of violence. And these individuals had no way out. My pro bono work helped me understand that there are so many services needed in this community. When I came to St. Mary's County after law school, I didn't know anything about family law. As you probably know, I know a lot about family law now, but representing these domestic violence victims pro bono for free taught me that there are other things that need to be done. It taught me that I needed to learn family law so I could extricate them out of these situations, but more importantly, their children out of these situations. So that's what my pro bono has taught me and brought to this community. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Lorenzini, this one is for you. Explain why you didn't sentence a convicted rapist who then sexually assaulted a child a few months later.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Not a problem. Explain why you didn't sentence a convicted rapist who then sexually assaulted a child a few months later.
Let me start with, I have no idea what it is that the question is referring to.
Okay.
I don't know of any particular case where I did not sentence a convicted rapist for something of that sort. I'm not sure where the misinformation came from. I will say that it is easy to take any one single case out of context and jump to conclusions based on information that may not be the information that came out before the court, that may not have come before the court for sentencing. All of my sentences have been fair but firm. We know they're firm because they've been challenged, and we know they're fair because they've been upheld. And again, I'm not exactly sure what this is referring to. I can't think of any particular case where that set of facts occurred or that I'm aware of. And I take my job and my role as a judge very seriously. And I'm not sure where that came from. That may have been taken out of context. Thank you.
Okay. This is for both of you ladies. And we'll start with Ms. Armitage. Why should I vote for you?
That is the best question I've heard all night. Why should I vote for you? And you never ask a lawyer why you should do anything because they're going to tell you. My extensive background is why you should vote for me. My fairness, my ability to understand the law, my ability to apply the facts to the law, my community involvement. You know, this is my community. And throughout this process and throughout my career, I'm always listening. I'm always trying to make this community better. When asked what changes you would make, here's my answer. I believe we need services for our youth. We need services for the veterans. You know, we have the highest number of veterans per capita in this St. Mary's County, other than any county in the state. We need services for them. They risked their life for us. We need to give back to them. The reason you should vote for me is I have the experience. I had the litigation. I'm Tanette, and I'm fair and impartial, and they're telling me to stop talking. So there you go. With a lawyer, I could keep talking. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Why should you vote for me for judge? My opponent stood up here earlier and said she has 34 years of experience, a lot more years of experience than I do. I have over 20 years of experience as an attorney and now nearly 2 years under my belt as a judge. It's still a significant amount of experience. What I think is important about the experience that I have, and it's not to discount, I think Ms. Armitage is a great family law and divorce attorney. She mentioned earlier a statistic of 70% of cases. I think it's closer to 67, but I'm not going to parse with the 3%. There are family law cases that are filed with the circuit court. Those cases are mainly handled by a magistrate in our circuit court. We have a family law magistrate. It's a full-time family law magistrate. A lot of those cases settle. Those who don't, a lot of them are heard by a magistrate. What I hear as a circuit court judge, only a very small percentage of those cases are family law. The majority of them are criminal jury trials, civil jury trials, criminal trials of property natures, administrative appeals, all of which I have 20 years of experience in doing, and now 2 years as a judge serving St. Mary's County and addressing these issues. Thank you.
This is for both of you ladies, and we'll start with Ms. Armitage. Could you please estimate the number of total cases you have tried in circuit court and describe how this experience has prepared you to perform the duties of a circuit court judge?
Yes, thank you. Estimate thousands, because I've been practicing law for 33, almost 34 years. So estimated thousands. I am a litigator. That's what I do. That means probably 2-3 times a week. I am in court. I'm before a judge. My opponent talked about the magistrate hears all the family law cases. That's absolutely not true, because I'm the one trying these cases. And I'm trying them before a circuit court judge, not before a magistrate. A magistrate can only hear a case that is 3 hours or under. Most domestic cases, and everybody in this room has probably been touched by a domestic family law case. You've had an aunt, an uncle, someone who has been divorced, somebody who's fought for custody. Those cases are highly charged cases. They are very serious cases, and they usually take days to try, which they are before a circuit court judge. And 70% of them are what we're hearing in circuit court, not the property cases, not the criminal cases. 70% of these cases are before judges.
We're going to have to agree to disagree about that one. As a sitting judge for the last 2 years, I can tell you the majority of what I have seen are criminal jury trials, civil jury trials, property matters, guardianships, adoptions, motions associated with all of these things. That is exactly what I did for 20 years prior to being appointed to the bench. I handled criminal jury trials as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. I handled civil jury trials. I handled civil motions, civil cases, appeals from administrative associations and administrative agencies. I did all of this throughout the state of Maryland. It may not have only been in St. Mary's County, but that doesn't mean that my experience means any less. In fact, that experience throughout the state of Maryland may actually bring some benefit to the bench in St. Mary's County. I have practiced this type of law. I did it for 20 years. I was an effective attorney, and now I've brought that experience to the bench, and I have the experience necessary for this position and will continue to be a fair and firm judge here in St. Mary's County. Thank you.
This question is for both of you ladies, and we'll start with you, Ms. Lorenzini. Could you describe your thoughts and opinions on the integrity and effectiveness of our current existing judicial system?
Okay. So I know earlier Ms. Armitage kind of joked about the fact that I have notes. As I said, I come prepared. I like to be prepared. I like to think about things beforehand. So if you see me flipping around, please forgive me. I just know that I have notes about this, and I like to, again, be prepared. Our current judicial system has come under a lot of scrutiny in the last few years. We've all heard about that from the Supreme Court down. I believe in our system. I believe in the United States justice system. I think that we have a good procedure in place with our justice system. I just think we need to follow it as judges. I think that the question was thoughts and opinions. I think we have a great opportunity. I think as a judge, I've been following those procedures that are in place. I think that's what we need from our judges, is to be able to utilize the system that we have and be fair and firm going forward. I know, again, that I believe in this system, and I think it can work right with the right people, and I'm that person. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I have to say, I see a sitting judge over here, so I better watch my comments. I think that our current bench, and I'll leave Ms. Lorenzini off for a minute, does a hell of a job making fair decisions for our community, and I really do appreciate that. I will say this, that I think that the integrity of Judge Stanlonis and Sam is impeccable. They take the bench, they're always prepared, they are diligent, and they do your job. I do have some concern with my opponent, and I'm not trying to turn this negative, but there's been melee in her courtroom. There have been light sentences that I think are seriously light sentences where we've had repeat offenders because of that. I think it's important that we take a look at our records and make a determination of what we think is important in our community. I think community safety is important. I think integrity is important. And I think due diligence is important. And I think I'm the one that can bring that to the bench.
This question is for both ladies. We'll start with you, Ms. Armitage. Do you consider yourself a politician?
That's an easy one. Absolutely not. I have spent my life practicing law where I tell my clients right out of the box, I don't mince any words. And politicians have to mince some words. So absolutely, I do not. I have enjoyed doing what I'm doing. I have enjoyed being out there in the public, which I always have been anyway. But it's funny, when you run for office, people like to come up and tell you things. When you're just out and about in the community, you talk to people and you enjoy yourself. But when you're running for office, people come up and say, hey, can I pick your brain about something? Can I tell you something? And I've always been listening. And I think that's why that's going to make me a really good circuit court judge, because I listen to our community, what they need, what their concerns are. And we need a little bit of a change here. And I think I can bring that to the bench. So no, I'm not a politician.
That's one thing Ms. Armitage and I can agree upon. I'm no politician either. I too, as I've explained, was an attorney. I've been a judge for the last 2 years. I often question whether or not a judge should go through this elective process. It does put us in very difficult positions. We heard a comment earlier about how I shouldn't accept money from certain people. I'm sure everyone would love to handicap their opponent in an expensive election. I don't consider myself a politician. I'm not really good at going out and doing things that it requires to be a politician, nor do I think it's appropriate in a lot of situations. I'm sitting here day in and day out, listening to cases and making decisions that are important decisions based on the facts and the law as I know it. Being a politician, having to answer questions or deny answer questions, which is also difficult. People think that I'm avoiding the questions. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not a great politician. I don't like to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a judge. Thank you.
Again, ladies, this is for both of you. And Ms. Lorenzini, we'll let you go first. Do you think electing judges is a good idea?
Well, everyone can probably figure out my answer to that one. So I do believe that the democratic process is very important. I think that the democratic process is always important, and I don't mean to undermine that by any means. Do I think that a judge should have to go through an election process? I mean, we have 4 levels of court in the state of Maryland. Out of the 4 levels, the circuit court is the only one where we have contested elections. Our 2 appellate levels are appointed by the governor. They are retention election only, yes or no, you can't run against them, and there's a 10-year term. District court, you're appointed by the governor, you are confirmed by the Senate, it's a 10-year term, no one can run against you. So the circuit court is the only level where we have these contested elections. It certainly puts people in a difficult position. I'm having to run with my hands tied behind my back on a lot of issues, and I Do I think there are faults with both of them? Do I think that either option is a perfect option? No, but I think a vetting process where someone gets to be thoroughly vetted by their peers is the better process. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure everybody in this room could guess my answer to it, which is yes, I think the electoral process is important. Here's why. Ms. Lorenzini is a political appointee, right? So we all know about politics. We've just talked about that. She talked about being thoroughly vetted, right? Both of us were thoroughly vetted. We both went through the same process. We both went through the Judicial Nominating Commission, and 3 of us that went through, 8 or 9 of us that applied, 3 of us went up to the governor. Then it's one man's choice. But here's the beauty of it. The electoral process says this lady gets to be the placeholder, but everybody out here gets to vote who they want. That's our democratic process. That's what's important. We talk about thoroughly vetting. She talked about some things about she was thoroughly vetted and went through these programs. Let me tell you, our local bar voted me highly qualified, numbers above my opponent. These are important things, right? These are the local people, the local lawyers decided that I was someone they felt comfortable with as being their judge.
Ms. Lorenzini, this is for you. What is your most notable case?
Most notable case. Well, I know we heard a lot about my sentencings earlier. And I'm assuming we mean as a judge. I did have a case that was before me not that long ago. It's been one that stuck out in my particular mind for a number of reasons. It was a case of vehicular manslaughter. The maximum for vehicular manslaughter is a 10-year sentence. In this particular case, the gentleman who was before me, who pled guilty to the vehicular manslaughter, had no criminal background in his case. That meant that his guidelines in that particular case were 3 months to 4 years, is what the state recommended that I sentence someone to, so that it's a kind of across the state, judges get these guidelines so that we know what a judge in any other county would sentence somebody to, and we can do something that's consistent. In that case, I sentenced that young man, again, first time before the court, to the full 10 years, the maximum amount. I thought it was the appropriate sentence given the crime and the circumstances of that crime, and it has meant a lot to me, and I hope to the community as well.
No, that was just for
Just from the court.
yeah, but the next one is you're gonna the next one you start off with. Okay. Judicial candidates should promote public confidence and avoid the perception of impropriety. How are the ethical obligations achieved when a candidate accepts monetary donations from attorneys who appear before them?
Well, I think it's important not only to show that you are fair and impartial, but not to have the appearance that you're not fair and impartial. I think if a defense attorney that's going to be in front of you and present cases and represent individuals is going to give you a contribution of $5,000, I think you ought to recuse yourself. As a judge, you should not be hearing cases of individuals that are supporting your campaign. So for me, I believe that what the public confidence would be held by recusing yourself. And when an individual takes funding and does not recuse himself, whether they're being fair or not fair, the inference is there and the public has no confidence. So I do believe that if you're being given contributions, you ought to recuse yourself in those cases.
So this is one of the age-old problems with judicial elections and how to accept money. I certainly, as I said, I've been sitting as a judge now for 2 years. Before that, I was actively involved in the Maryland State Bar Association on the executive committee, actively involved in local bar associations. The reality is I'm doing a good job. I'm doing a great job. I have a good temperament. I'm fair. I listen. People know what to expect when they come into my courtroom. They know I'm going to be prepared. Who has the most vested interest in making sure that we have a good prepared judge sitting on the bench? It's going to be our lawyers. They want to make sure that I have the ability to run the right campaign. Does it create an appearance of impropriety? I'd say no. The one that Ms. Armitage just referenced, the $5,000 donation from an attorney in our community, one of the last sentences I had of his before me was, again, probation to 18 months was the guidelines, and I sentenced his client to 8 years. So I don't think there's any indication that I'm being unfair or at all biased based on any contributions that were made. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, ladies, both. And we'll start with you, Ms. Armitage. How have you dealt with discovery disputes?
Well, we have a process in our court system that is not trial by surprise, which means that we do what we call discovery. We present questions and requests for documents, and each side has an opportunity to provide the documents and answer the questions. So when I've had a discovery dispute, when someone has not fulfilled their obligation, I raise that issue with the individual or the lawyer and say, I need your discovery. I make a good faith effort. If they still fail to provide the discovery, then I follow through and ask the court to force them to do it, the motion to compel. Usually the court gives them another 30 or 40 days to provide the answers. I do want to go back one step to Ms. Lorenzini's point, and she said that she had sentenced this individual. So she's talking about an individual that gave her money. She didn't talk about, once he gave her money, there were 2 cases that came before her, and the defendant was acquitted on those counts. Currently pending is a recusal request that she has not ruled on. These are really important integrity issues that I think we should be listening and looking at.
It's supposed to be a forum, not necessarily a debate, but I'm going to address that last issue first. Those 2 individuals were acquitted by a jury. That was a jury trial, 2 jury trials. Jurors of 12 members of their peers that they sat and they selected, acquitted them and found them not guilty. It wasn't me that acquitted them. It was a jury. So I feel like that's a very important distinction. There was no request for me to recuse myself in either of those cases. It was never brought to my attention that this was a problem that either the state's attorney had or the defense attorney had. The only person that's had a problem with this is Ms. Armitage. As far as dealing with discovery disputes, my perspective is a little bit different in that I'm a judge now and not a lawyer. And if I'm being asked from my perspective as a judge, if an attorney brings a valid discovery dispute to my attention, I deal with it quickly. I deal with it promptly. If attorneys know when they file things and they become ripe, they're at issue, I rule on them quickly. They don't sit around, they don't linger. I deal with them so that we can have a fair system, so that discovery can be exchanged and that we can hear everyone's cases fairly and fully.
Okay, ladies, this is for both of you. And Ms. Armitage, we'll let you go first. If elected by the people, what are your top 2 priorities as judge?
Well, I have 3. Can I answer that? No. I do have 3 initiatives, and if you're interested, please go on my website and read them in detail, but I'm just going to address them briefly since this lady keeps beeping me and telling me to stop talking. The first initiative is the Veterans Court. I talked a little bit about that, but in this county, we have so many veterans that I think it's important to give our veterans a diversion program, another alternative to going to jail for non-violent offenses. That's important, giving them some services. The second one is a juvenile recovery court, which I've talked a lot about. But thirdly, I think it's important to protect our community. And I believe that we need to have tougher sentences for repeat violent offenders. That's not happening. And we need that in our community. And I'm going to make sure that happens.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to address is I think my opponent may be slightly misinformed about the role of an associate judge and what they can do with regards to these recovery court programs. They require extensive research, planning, budgeting, hiring. processes. It's not something you come in on day one and do. It's not even something an associate judge does. It's something that our administrative judges, there's a whole adult recovery court program, a problem solving court program within our court system that needs to be gone through. Secondly, the things that I will do are the things I have been doing for the past 2 years. As I indicated earlier, I initiated a guardianship clinic for people who need to seek guardianships and who are not represented. I sought appointment and was appointed to the Equal Justice Commission in the state of Maryland. I sought and received appointment to the Maryland Judicial Education Committee. I sought and received appointment to the Maryland Pro Bono Committee. And I sought appointment to all of these things so I can continue to represent the interests of St. Mary's County throughout our state. And I will continue to do that going forward. Thank you.
Ms. Lorenzini, you can have the start with this one. It's for both ladies. What volunteer work have you done in St. Mary's County in the last year?
Going back to my notes again, sorry, I do like to be prepared for these things, like I said. Other than initiating the guardianship clinic that I indicated earlier, in the last year, I also participated in Project Graduation. I'm a member of the Hollywood Lions Club. Last week alone, I participated in the Special Olympics and volunteered with them. On my day off, I'd taken the day off, had it off already, got the opportunity to volunteer with Special Olympics. I have volunteered with many other organizations throughout St. Mary's County. I have volunteered with Christmas in April. I have volunteered with our school systems, and I have volunteered with the Clement Cuties last year for all of their softball games and all of the things that they do to raise awareness for young people who are suffering from cancer and other disabilities in the community. Thank you.
As I said, I love my community. I spend a lot of time in my community. I'm on various boards for schools. St. Mary's Riken. I was on the Bay Montessori board. I'm on the State Bar board. I spent a lot of time trying to educate and mentor young attorneys. I spend time at the Hollywood Fire Department, donating my time to help them raise money for our safety and security. I spend money at Ridge, my hometown volunteer fire department, helping them raise money so that we can buy new equipment for our fire and rescue squad. I did Christmas in April. I'm signed up again for Christmas in April. I spent the whole day with Mike from Mike's Bikes. Sometimes he's a little begrudging, but anyway, with Mike's Bikes distributing turkeys for people that are in need during Thanksgiving. Every day I volunteer my time. Every day I have a young lawyer call me up and ask me for their advice. Every day someone calls and asks me, can I help them? And I do it. I do it for everyone in the community, not just these big organizations. And it's not a showy thing. It's because that's who I am.
Okay, ladies. This is probably going to be the last, if not or close to the last question. I think I've saved the lightest weight question for the last. And here we go. It's for both of you. Could you please describe any efforts you have made in furtherance of the enrichment of the legal profession as a whole? Want me to read it again? Ms. Lorenzini.
Thank you. As I indicated earlier, I have been a member of the executive committee with the Maryland State Bar Association. I was a member of that executive committee throughout COVID. I participated in ensuring that our legal community had continued resources throughout that COVID time period. In addition, I was on the Maryland Court of Appeals, now Maryland Supreme Court Standing Committee on Pro Bono Legal Services. I was on the local committee for 10 years, more than 10 years, and now on the state committee for the past 2 years. They work on ensuring access to justice by everyone in our community, and especially those who cannot afford representation. I was a member of the Maryland Court of Appeals Character Committee that interviewed new attorneys as they were coming in and made recommendations as to their admission to the bar. Then I was a member of the Professionalism Center, where I helped teach those young attorneys the professionalism skills in order to make it in the community. Those are just a few. I am still a member of the Maryland State Bar Association. I've been the president and president-elect of a local bar association. I could sit here and go all day, but I'm told there's stop. So thank you.
I talked a little bit about it, but I'll talk a little bit more. I have been, I was appointed by the Court of Appeals to participate in the Young Mentorship Program for young lawyers. So I did that for several years. I was on the JNC, the Judicial Nominating Commission. That Judicial Nominating Commission vetted all of the candidates that went through for judgeship. So I worked very hard. I was a chairperson for, I think, the last 10 years. I was on it for 20 years. My extensive pro bono work should say mostly what I need to say about the enrichment of the legal profession. I work very hard to make it easier for the judicial system, and I work very hard doing pro bono work when I don't have to, so that I can help individuals maneuver the judicial system. So when you talk about what I've done for enrichment of the profession as a whole, I've helped the profession by enabling these individuals to have proper representation so that they can get the proper outcome and consequence that they deserve as a result of working through the system. So that is what I've done to enrich the system. Thank you.
Okay, ladies, I want to thank you for your participation here this afternoon and let you know that we're down to the final 2 minutes. And I will give Ms. Armitage the first 2 minutes.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone again for coming this evening. I know it's been already a long night, and I know Josh Guy is anxiously waiting to have his turn, and Mary Washington at the Allen. So I'm excited about that. I want to thank you for allowing me to come here, and let me tell you why I seek your votes. I have the experience, I have the integrity. I have been working in this county and living in this county all my life. This county needs someone who understands the county and can bring change. My opponent, when she took the job, they asked her, what change would you make now that you have this placeholder position as a judge? And her answer is, I wouldn't change much. Well, look around this county. She says she's been on the bench for 22 years. Look around this county. We need change. We need ideas. You might look and say, well, you know what? You haven't done a lot of criminal law. That's the rhetoric that's been put out there. Let me tell you something. Judge Briscoe was an excellent judge, and he had no criminal law experience, no family law experience. We loved him. He was great. All he knew was real estate. He took the bench. He was an excellent judge. Not to point out Judge Dan Lonis, but Judge Dan Lonis had no family law background. He took the bench as a former prosecutor, and he is the best lawyer, best judge we have for family law cases. What you need as a circuit court judge is someone who has integrity, diligence, that works hard. And everybody in this room that knows me knows that I work hard. I care about my community. I care about my friends. I care about my clients. As a circuit court judge, I'll care about you. I'll care about implementing programs that are going to help people. I'll care about implementing programs that are going to give us resources and our children and our veterans some resources. And I'll care about keeping our community safe. Look out here for 5 minutes and tell yourself what judge that's firm. We need a judge that's going to make quick decisions. We need a judge that has integrity, that's going to do the right thing for our community. And I believe I'm that right person. Thank you.
And I'm going to tell you, you have that, Judge. I have all of the respect in the world for Ms. Armitage. I think you're lucky because you have two qualified people that are standing before you for this job. We're both qualified in different ways, though. My experience is much more diverse than Ms. Armitage's experience, and it's no knock at her doing family law. It's not it at all. It's just that what I see and what I've been seeing for the last 2 years sitting as a judge on the circuit court bench are criminal jury trials, civil jury trials, property matters, appeals from administrative agencies, appeals from district court, guardianships, adoptions, and some family law. I'm not saying that there's no family law. There is some, but that is exactly what my background is. I have the criminal experience. I have the jury trial experience. I am your judge. I'm doing it. I have that diversified background. If you look at my resume, if you grab one on your way in, you should hopefully see that I have a lot of background in community service. I have a lot of background in giving back to the legal profession and helping to shape the legal profession for not only my generation, but the next generation of attorneys coming in. That experience is critical for this position. It allows me to be there every day. It allows me to be there. I think the words that I heard even Ms. Armitage uses, integrity, diligence, and working hard. If you ask around, you ask people that have come before me, they're going to tell you those are what exemplifies me as a judge. I have the integrity. I work hard. I come to the bench prepared and I make decisions. I do it fairly. I do it kindly. And I give everyone the due respect that they deserve in my courtroom every day. I've been doing it for nearly 2 years now. You have that, Judge. As an attorney, I tried hundreds, if not thousands of cases. I have that experience. I most recently was awarded with a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Maryland State Bar Association and the Maryland Daily Record for my lifetime achievement as a leader in the law. I have the support of the Maryland State Bar Association, and I am doing the job well. That is why I would like to ask for you. I may not have been born here. I may not have been raised here, but I do live here. I've lived here for nearly 15 years, and I do care about this community. I show it every day, and I'd ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. You did an excellent job. Thank you very much. Good job. Thank you.
So, good evening, everyone. We are about to start the next portion of our candidate forum. Just a reminder to hold your applause until the end after each candidate gives their closing argument. So please, no applause after each answered question. Hold your applause to the end. And also, questions that are not asked will be given to each candidate so that you can, so that they will have them and they can provide. That goes for all. So judicial candidates and Board of Education candidates. So we're starting with our Board of Education candidates for the at-large position. So will you please come forward? Yeah. Heard it. I'm going to repeat it again. Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So again, there was some transition candidate till the end after the candidate closing arguments. In addition, all questions that were not asked will be given to each candidate so that they have a chance to answer. Okay. So again, tonight we are starting off with the Board of Education at-large position. Present this evening, each candidate will introduce themselves. So, and not participating tonight, but I will read her remarks. It's Miss Angela Wathen, but we'll start with the candidates that are present here, and we will do ladies first.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you for coming. My name. Is that better? Okay. Thank everyone for coming. I appreciate it. My name is Brandy Edelin. I am a mother of 6 children. Yes, 6. I'm also a college professor. I teach at CSM. all three campuses, but primarily the Leonardtown campus. I am a former public school teacher. I began teaching at Margaret Brent Middle School as a paraeducator, and then I went to Esperanza while my students were attending. My children were attending. I became certified in special education and went to Charles County to teach. I am a small business owner. I have a business located in Mechanicsville. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, degree in human services, and I am working on my PhD. Okay. So as a certified special educator, case manager for my students, which if you don't know what a case manager is, I was advocating for them and their parents. I am running because the current educator at CSM, areas where dual enrolled students that I have each day, dual enrolled meaning students are coming from Great Mills, Leonardtown High School, and Chopticon, coming into my 1010 courses, and I'm able to see their abilities. They're not prepared for college. I'm running. I think this is going in and out. Increasing amounts of disruptions in the classroom cannot facilitate effective learning for students. I'm running because our curriculum is lacking in areas that students need, specifically real life skills, budgeting, resume writing, how to fill out a job application, what credit is, interest rates, basic financial literacy. I'm also running because I have consistently achieved highly effective ratings as a college professor, in addition to earning the respect of my students and colleagues. I have seen and been a part of what works, and it involves a collab. Thank you.
Remember, no applause until the end. Mr. Guy? Can I speak it? Yeah. Just pull the mic close.
I mean, I'll set it.
Yeah.
Waiting on the clock. No, you're fine. Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, the NAACP 7025, and the Center for the Study of Democracy. My name is Josh Guy. I'm a candidate for school board at large. A little bit about myself. I'm a lifelong St. Mary's County resident, and I'm the only candidate in this race who has attended and graduated from St. Mary's County Public Schools. And I'm hoping to provide that unique perspective to our school board. I went to Mechanicsville Elementary, Margaret Brent Middle, Chopticon High School. Sorry if I have any Hornets in the room. I'm loyal to the Braves. After high school, I went to CSM and received my paralegal certification. I now work for the Maryland Judiciary. I've traveled all around this county during this campaign, from Golden Beach all the way down to Point Lookout, from Great Mills all the way to the 7th District. I do a lot of listening. There's 3 points that I'd really like to hit on with tonight. Safety and security, ensuring that our students are safe inside the classroom, having a well-equipped and well-trained security team in each of our schools. Parents, helping our parents navigate the complex school system. It's difficult for parents with IEPs, 504s, to get the resources that they need, and I'd like to help them. Lastly, when we talk about recruiting and retaining teachers, we got to have a plan to do that. We got to step out of our comfort zone. We've got to recruit in the DC metro area, advertise up there, attend job fairs up there. So with that, thank you.
Obviously, candidate up here, but the benefit of being the oldest candidate, I've got in dealing with children in the schools and the drugs that are causing so much trouble going back 50 years. Now, at 50 years ago, 1974, there were riots at my kids' high school, and a number of the children were beat, including some teachers. And of course, we parents thought, well, we got to find out what's going on. So we did, but we also got together as parents to see if we could influence somebody to help us understand. Well, the school held a session with teachers and administrators and a lot of other people, including parents, to see what happened. And what they found was that drugs were prevalent throughout the schools, and the violence was prevalent throughout the schools, and that little cliques were beating up on each other. And all of a sudden, this one day, it exploded in a massive thing. Now, that was 50 years ago, folks. And at that time, student drug use was up very high, at the peak of what this nation has experienced. Here we are 50 years later, and all of a sudden, what's coming up in the newspapers is that children are being beat unmercifully within a school, and not enough is being done about it. And we know from our 50 years of research on this that almost all of the violence like that is caused by drug abuse. Somebody in there, of course, Mina, our health officer, has said over and over that the drugs cause craziness. And I'm getting spooked by the amount of time I got left here. But anyway, that needs to be straightened out. And we spent the last 50 years going to the different government agencies to get the tools to be able to fix this. And we've got them, but they're not being used in St. Mary's County schools, although they are being used in thousands of other schools throughout the country. And I've got the backup documentation on all of them. We got it approved by federal Congress. We got it approved by the Supreme Court. We got it approved by a whole lot of people. And like I said, 1,000 schools today are using this good thing. What happens when they're being tested? They quit using drugs. When they quit using drugs, peace prevails over the thing. We got thousands of examples of that. So that's where I'm going right now.
And as I stated earlier, Ms. Wathen is unable to attend tonight's forum and asks that we read the following statement. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angie Wathen, a former teacher for over 25 years in both public and parochial schools. I am currently a small business owner living with my husband of 27 years, Sean, in Avenue, Maryland. My apologies for not making this event in person. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, the NAAC Branch 7025, the Lexington Park Library, and the Center for the Study of Democracy for holding this event and for allowing me an opportunity to submit a written introduction. I am proud to have taught in the classroom and hope to make a difference as a member of the St. Mary's County Board of Education. The Board of Education at-large seat is not being contested by an incumbent board member. The candidate elected this November will be a new member who needs to bring new ideas, new energy, and broad experience to the board. I believe that I am that person. I am qualified and ready to serve the citizens of St. Mary's County. My teaching career started at St. John's Elementary School in Hollywood, where I taught art for 10 years. I moved to the St. Mary's County Public School System, where I taught art at Margaret Brent Middle School, Chopticon High School, and the Chesapeake Public Charter School. I've also taught at the College of Southern Maryland. My teaching experience has given me a special appreciation for all teachers in the classroom. I have great knowledge in the everyday teaching in an ever-changing and challenging environment. I know the workload of the teachers and how it overflows into their personal time. I also have knowledge with parent expectations in their children's education. I will fight for our teachers to make sure they have everything they need to do their jobs effectively. I will fight for the parents who rely on the teachers to have what they need to do their jobs effectively. And I will fight for our students to have a safe place to learn. Teachers will be able to count on me to support them in making our students the best they can be. I am able to work with anyone and everyone to help make St. Mary's County schools the best in the state and in the country. I look forward to meeting you on the campaign trail and hearing your questions and concerns. I believe in accountability and will hold myself to very high standards. I will work to earn your vote and deliver thoughtful decisions that benefit all our citizens, especially our children. Again, thank you for this opportunity to introduce myself. I wish all the candidates running for office the best, and I hope to be successful in the primaries next month and the general election in November. Have a good evening and God bless you all. Angie Wathen. All right. So now we will ask the first question. This goes for all candidates. What specifically would you do to save money within the St. Mary's County Public School budget? Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. We'll start with Mr. Rathbone.
Okay. I see that the budget would be great. Didn't have to put much money into turning the schools into armed citadels. And that can be done very easily if they simply adopt the policy of health screening the kids for drugs and taking the ones that they find exposed to them and get them into some real rehab. But the rehab's got to change from what's currently available. My suggestion is that they call on the federal government to help shut down the manufacturing facility for pot in the 7th district and turn that great big facility into a rehab facility. It'd be easy to do. It's against the federal law. They need to be prosecuted. And I hope the ladies that were up here talking about their experience as judges would understand we need their help to make that happen.
Mr. Guy?
Yes. I would look at administrative expenses. I want well-qualified, good educators for our schools. But if I was going to look anywhere for budget cuts, it would be administrative expenses. The other thing I think we can do a little bit better is trying to plan a little better for our future when it comes to future budgets. You know, trying to plan out 7-8 years, I think, is a smart move.
So when it comes to the budget, it gets to be a tricky situation because you don't want to cut areas that are effective. So what's key is that we understand where the money is going. Once we know where the money is going, we can look at things and say, okay, everything's about data in the public schools. We're always collecting data, whether it's on students or whatever it is, it's all data driven. So what we need to do is look at everything and see where the money's going and see if in those areas they're effective. So if it's a certain, if it's a committee, if it's targeted towards helping students in some way, then we need to take a look. Yes, we're going to keep those things, but there are things in the budget that could go because the data shows that it's not working.
Mr. Guy? And this is for all candidates. We'll start with Mr. Guy. Staying with the budget, how do you plan to address the significant budget shortfalls in the projected 24-25 budgets and beyond?
Well, that's an interesting question because recently the commissioners voted to raise taxes. That's always a tough decision to make when it comes to fully funding education. But as I said, the first place you want to look is administrative expenses. I don't want to touch anything that's going to harm our teachers or our paraeducators or not have our kids be in athletic programs, after school programs. Those are all things that I don't want to cut. But if I had to make tough decisions, I would look for administrative expenses.
How do you plan to address significant budget shortfalls in projected 24-25 budgets and beyond?
Again, when it comes to the budget, it's tricky because you don't want to take from things. And I agree with Josh on not eliminating certain things that are critical for students to have, like extracurricular activities, certain groups and clubs. So again, to go back what I was saying previous, it's important to look at what administrative costs are. I agree with Josh on that as well, but to look at things that are productive and effective and keep them, and look at things that are not and get rid of them.
Mr. Rathbone?
I think the main thing they need to do is take another look at that Tier 1 commission. That was a real dreamy thing, assuming that you had all the money in the world to spend. And you don't have all the money in the world to spend. Part of the reason that they're showing up short now on the budget is because of the demanded expenses of that commission. They need to turn around and tell them, shove it. It's not going to work for us. It can't work for us. It's too dreamy, and we're not going to do it. Now, one of the things in the Kirwan Commission was to increase the salaries of the school teachers. Well, you need to get the drugs out of the schools and the violence out of the schools first, so you can attract some good teachers. There's a bunch of teachers in there now. Can't wait to get out. And anyway, but only got a couple more seconds. That's the way I'd cut the budget.
Thank you. This question is for Ms. Edlin. What data do you have to support your conclusions of lack of college preparedness in our students?
I don't have data specifically written, but there's a paper due in my 1010 courses, and the students are struggling writing a paper. These are students coming out of SMCPS. They cannot effectively write a paper. I have to help them with a thesis statement. I have to help them with a reference page. This is stuff that needs to be taught in high school. I don't have enough time in my class to teach them psychology or sociology and also teach them how to write a paper. So no, I do not have data specifically, numbers, but every day a portion of my class is dedicated to helping students where they're lacking these deficits that they're coming to me from SMCPS that I have to fix.
And staying with you, this is for all, though. How would you let members of the community know controversial issues affecting the children's education?
Okay, it's to the best of my knowledge, and I have I didn't mention this, but my son, out of all 6 of my kids, all have graduated, gotten married, went into the military, but we have one left, the youngest, and he's at Chopticon. There are weekly newsletters that they send out, and I believe all schools are required to at least communicate with parents in the community on a weekly basis. So that's key. Things like that are concerning right now, topics are fights in the schools and things like that. Those need to be addressed. Those need to be made public. But I believe that when disruptions such as fights happen in schools, before it's released to the public, we need to make sure that we have all of the facts about it, so that we're not releasing information that is going to cause people to really be concerned.
Could you
Yes. How would you let members of the community know controversial issues affecting the children's education?
Good question. I think, transparency is going to be a key to success. And part of the frustrations that I've heard from some parents is they're feeling like they're not getting information that they need from the school system. So I think probably one of the best ways is for critical information like that to be posted up on SMCPS social media, because that's how a lot of people are getting information nowadays. It's not so much, send a letter with your child home. It's not so much email anymore. It's a lot of social media, and I think that would actually reach a lot more people.
Yes, we have the problem of things going on bad in the schools that aren't admitted, aren't publicized. We had the case of a kid, 16-year-old kid, died of a heroin overdose death. And then, of course, they covered it up the best they could. Finally, it leaked out because we parents were in a parents' meeting one night talking about drug prevention when the authorities were coming up telling us, hey, did you hear about this heroin overdose death? And of course, it happened. The kid was over the Christmas holidays. He was away from home for a while. But anyway, they covered that up as much as they could. And a lot of the stuff about the fights and the beatings, one of the most recent ones is the gang that held a little girl down and tried to kick her brains out. And there's been another one similar. You're not hearing about that. You've got to start admitting what's going on. Thank you.
For all candidates, we'll start with Mr. Guy. Do you support financial literacy for all students? And if so, why is it important?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I want kids when they graduate from high school, our students to graduate from high school, I want them to know how to write a check. I want them to know the basics of banking. I remember taking financial math at Chapticon High School. It helped me greatly. I learned how to write a check. I learned about bank accounts. That's an important aspect of your child's future, and it should be taught in all of our schools.
Remember, no clapping. Ms. Etlin?
100%. Okay. It's one of the things that I'm running on. Financial literacy is key. We push college, and I teach at a college. College is so important. It's going to open up so many opportunities. But let's face it, if you can't budget, if you don't know how to pay your bills, if you can't pay your bills because you're out spending, if this stuff is not taught to you, and parents, listen, part of the responsibility falls on parents. We need to discuss with our children how to be, how to have a budget and how to budget your money. But assistance in the schools would be great with that. So I am very much for financial literacy.
Yeah, of course, I agree that they need to know how to write a check and do some routine things like that. But in addition, they need to learn the basic math in order to get along in a craft trade. I taught in the craft trades for years. And of course, I got the complaint because most kids that signed up for an apprentice course figured, well, I won't have to study academic courses anymore. And of course, they do have to. They're taught some basic algebra and things like that in order to function. You have to measure stuff and calculate stuff in the field. So one of my associates in this, when we were talking about the kids complaining about it, he says, I explained they're just mental push-ups, which that was a good explanation. Exercise their brain. But yeah, they need to be taught some of the basic stuff that they're going to use out on the outside.
And Mr. Rathbone, sticking with you, what evidence do you have that drugs are in the schools and causing problems?
Oh my goodness. There's yeah, if you read the papers, you'll find out. But also there's how do they call that thing? Every other year, they take a survey of all the kids and they answer questions on what's going on. And routinely, the main one that went on was the drugs are being sold and used in our schools. That starts it. And from then on, they give the percentages of the kids that admit to using marijuana, heroin, fighting amongst themselves and things like that. That's where you get the information from. Plus, the health department is loaded with it too. Thank you.
And this is for all three candidates. We'll start with Ms. Etlin. How many Board of Education meetings have you attended as a candidate, and what, if anything, did you learn?
I believe I attended 3, and I learned a lot about the budget. I learned how much it costs to educate each student, which I believe was $16,000 a year, 16 to 18. So I learned a lot about where the money goes, how much it costs to educate. That was the most. It was budget.
Thank you. I've attended in person 2 meetings, but I always watch the meetings being live streamed. And yeah, it's a great eye-opening experience to be able to see these decisions being made in action when it comes to how much we're going to spend for security cameras, how much are we going to spend for step increases for teachers. And I've enjoyed it, and it's taught me a lot.
A while back, we parents were meeting with the school board, or at the school board meetings, occasionally making our pitch that we need to do health screening of the kids to protect them from the bad impact of drugs. And so we had seen a number of these, and I see a friend of mine that was in charge of safety for the school board that was very active in those meetings, and he since sort of neglected him, cut him out. So I think that's part of the cover up of how bad things are. And as soon as I get a lot of votes from people, I can use those and go to the superintendent and tell him, look, this is what the people agree to. We need to start health screening the kids for drugs. And we got all kind of documentation on how to do that.
Mr. Guy, this question is for you. What would you cut out of administration in the budget?
Thank you. I take a look at, I'm not talking administration inside of our schools themselves. I would take a look at central office to see if any roles are being duplicated. And that's where I'd start.
For all of the candidates, Mr. Rathbone, have you had a face-to-face meeting with Superintendent Smith since becoming a candidate? And if so, what did you learn?
No, but I had meetings with him before. And what I learned was he was, for whatever reason, not anxious to try to do something that's controversial. And I got that. But he needs to listen to me and let me present the documentation. Well, this is no longer controversial. It's in practice. It's a marvelous way to protect the kids in the schools. And I just hope that I get enough votes that reinforces me to be able to go to him with a face-to-face and say, come on, let's get on with it. We got to do it.
I did speak with Superintendent Smith. I did not sit down with him for a lengthy period, but I did talk to him at one of the board meetings. Yes.
I'm going to agree with Brandy here. I haven't sat down with Dr. Smith, but I've known Dr. Smith for a couple of years. I was on Principal Advisory Council when I was in high school, so I got to know him pretty well through that. I was on the Youth Advisory Commission, where I was head of the subcommittee on education. So I had a couple meetings with him. He's a good man.
This question is for you, Mr. Rathbone. What do you not like about increasing teachers' salaries who are first lines of offense to protect our students?
Oh, I agree with raising those salaries for the teachers and administrators that are involved with trying to protect the kids from drugs. I agree with that.
For all 3 candidates, what makes you qualified to advocate for special education students? Mr. Guy.
That's a great question. I've had a lot of conversations with parents of special education students, and I hear a lot of the same complaints, and that is, I don't know what to do when I go to an IP meeting. I don't know if I can have somebody with me. I feel like my child's just getting pushed through. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. And what I would like to do is try to make that information more available to our special education parents so that they can have an adequate and successful special education for their child.
I don't know anything about that particular issue. I know that some of these kids that have the problems are bullied pretty bad by the other kids. And I think if we could ever get the screening in the schools, tone down the bullying, which that would do, that would help.
So as a certified special educator, that's what I did. That was my job. So in addition to teaching self-contained courses, I was an advocate for my students on my caseload. So in addition to teaching curriculum, I had and carried a caseload of about 15 students each year, advocating for their goals, their accommodations, making sure teachers were supplying them with the things that they needed to be successful, communicating with their parents, writing the IEPs, following up with goal progress, making sure that they are achieving their goals. So special education, that's what I've done. I've been an advocate all the way around. Parents, students, again, that was part of my job daily.
And staying with special education, this is for all board candidates. How do you plan to address persistent non-compliance with special education IEPs? And
Okay. So when I was certified, it was with Charles County Public Schools. And so I although I was a paraeducator for St. Mary's County, my certification was in Charles. And compliance is extremely important. There needs to be consequences when you're not compliant. And compliance means that IEPs are written in a timely manner, that parents are receiving them 5 days prior, at least, or more to the meeting time. Sometimes you have some teachers, for whatever reason, are sending things out late and they're not compliant. And I can't speak for St. Mary's County, but from my experience, not a lot was done to keep teachers compliant with that. So that is a real thing. And I think that it's there has to be a consequence for that.
Mr. Guy?
Yeah, compliance is very important. This is a written agreement that we have with the school for your child, and they should be getting all the benefits that they need and all the support that they need, because when they don't, they struggle.
That's too difficult a one for me. I wouldn't know what to do.
Okay. Well, here's a question for you, Mr. Rathbone. What good things have you to say about St. Mary's County Public Schools?
They got a lot of good people. They got a lot of good leadership. They got a lot of problems, and they're sweeping a lot of those problems under the table. So I think what we need to do, and I hope that this forum here helps with that, get them looking at these problems in a way that we can address these problems. We've got the people there. They're good people. Scott himself is a heck of a good guy, but he's got to get off of this idea that he doesn't approve, he doesn't like student drug testing. He thinks he's doing enough. And yet he is doing a lot of things. He's got a lot of good people around him. If he gets with me and lets me go through some of this 50 years of documentation that I've got that shows how schools have fixed this problem and addressed it, I think I'll be very happy to let him know how to do it. All he'd have to do then is appoint a committee, and I'll volunteer to head that thing. And at the end of one school year,
Mr. Rathbone?
we'll have the drugs and the other issues out of the school.
Thank you. Ms. Edlin, what feedback have you provided to the high school educators for how unprepared your students are at CSM? And what are you doing to help close the gaps before students arrive in your CSM class?
So I have many friends that are teachers in St. Mary's County, and I've expressed to them the concerns, the deficits that I see. I honestly, I'm only closing the gap once they arrive in my class. The good thing is, because I teach during the day, I don't just have graduates of SMCPS coming, but I have 16, 17, 18-year-olds. They're still in school. They're juniors and seniors. So I'm going over with them. Like I said, a good portion of my class is dedicated to teaching them the things that they need to be successful, stuff that they are lacking. So again, not directly going into the public school, but they're still in the public school attending my class.
This is for all candidates, starting with Mr. Guy. Do you support banning books from school?
Interesting question. I don't support blanket bans, but I think that if a parent has a concern about a book and they bring it to the attention of the Board of Education, that response should be in a timely manner and in a way that's appropriate.
Yes, that's comes under the jurisdiction of the school board. They have to do with school policy. And if they see or hear a complaint about a book that's not appropriate, it's up to them to take a look and see if they agree. And if they agree, get it out of there. If they don't agree, we'll leave it in. No big deal. But it's a school board's problem.
Ellen?
I believe that if there's just cause, that if a book is violating a policy, a direct policy, if it contains sexually explicit material, that, or whatever the case is, I believe that it should be banned. Yes, I do.
And sticking with you, and this is for all candidates though. Do you support equipping and training teachers to carry guns?
That's a tough question. At this point in our county, I would have to say no, I do not. I just don't, I think that's adding another component into the school that would, I'm not sure that that's what we need. I don't think that our county is at that level to have to go to that degree.
Mr. Guy?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Brandy here. What I would like to see though is I always like to see our school resource officers being engaged with our elementary schools. Currently, we have them in middle and high school, but of course, I'd like to see them positively engaging with our elementary schools.
I agree with the idea that letting the resource officers handle the guns. It'd be a little too much to have it up to the individual teachers, unless they've got some teacher on staff who's qualified with guns and knows how to handle them. And if he were to have an additional gun on him concealed, I wouldn't have any trouble with that.
And Mr. Guy, we'll start with you first, but this is for all candidates. Do you think it's important for schools to stick to general education subjects and leave gender identity and sexual education to the parents?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's wise, to focus on mathematics, reading, science, of course. But let me clarify earlier. It's going to be our decision if a book comes up that's controversial, and my job is to look at it, make a decision that's fair. I'll read the book. I'll actually read the book to try to make it the best educated decision that I can with that.
Could you repeat the question? Yeah.
Do you think it's important for schools to stick to general education subjects and leave gender identity and sexual education to the parent?
I do. I think that it's the parents' job and their right to be able to discuss those types of sensitive topics at home. And if you look at the data, students are behind. They're behind for various reasons, COVID, but until we have scores that reflect what they should be in reading, math, and writing, other things shouldn't be considered. Again, that's the parents' right to do that in the privacy of their own home.
I agree with those things.
Okay. Mr. Rathbone, how do you plan to health screen for drugs?
It's very simple. They have, we got the screening thing for COVID that we're all used to. And when there's a question about whether somebody's being affected, they hit them with this thing for 10 minutes. Got the same thing for drugs. Here's one for oral swabs, covers about 11 drugs, including the bad ones, the fentanyl and everything else. Take a few minutes to take a swab. It's just a question of committing yourself in a program to routinely do this. And the other part of it is, in these extensive drug testing programs, is you only test a few. That's what the random content is about. So you don't have to test them all. As soon as you tell them they're going to be tested, most of them are going to quit because they don't want the old man to find out they're on drugs or they won't be able to get the keys to the car.
Thank you. Ms. Etlin, do you perceive any conflicts of interest with being on the school board while also being a CSM professor?
I do not. If anything, I think it's beneficial. It would be beneficial. Again, I'm still an educator now, so I'm seeing the students, I'm interacting with them. So I think I would bring a perspective to the board of in being in a role that I think is critical to the board. I think you need an educator on the board, whether it's a past educator or not, but I don't see a conflict of interest. No, if anything, I think it would be beneficial to the board to have my perspective of what I'm seeing daily.
Mr. Guy, what makes you more qualified than the other candidates?
Well, I think both of these candidates are obviously very passionate, but what I bring to the table is I'm the only candidate in this race who was a former student. I went through St. Mary's County Public Schools. I went through Mechanicsville Elementary, Margaret Britt Middle, Chapticon High School. I spent 13 years as a student. And what I'm trying to do is bring that perspective to the school board because I've got an educator on the school board, but I don't have somebody that was a recent former student to really advocate.
And this is for all candidates. Unfortunately, this is the last question, even though there are plenty more.
Can I answer that last question?
No.
He's the only one that's attended school.
The
This is
last
great.
question is,
And,
what letter grade would you give the current Board of Education and why? And we'll start with you, Mr. Rathbone. And
Well, they're all honest, hardworking people have, and they make the best decisions they can. But if they are held back from some of the information that they need to know in order to make reasonable decisions, they're going to, garbage in, garbage out. So they need to have the administration open up, admit what's going on, and admit there are ways to fix it and get on with it. But that last question, now I got to answer that. I went to Great Mills High School and in the 9th grade in school year 1943-44. And it was heaven. We had Miss Jane Mattingly and Miss Martha Mattingly, two real tall spinster gals that ran the school. And us teenagers really behaved ourselves. But it was peaceful and people were happy. There were no fights. There was no argument. It was heaven.
What letter grade would you give the Board of Education and why?
I mean, I think the current board is doing a fine job. I really do. I've been to some meetings and I just think that you're never going to run for Board of Ed because you're not passionate. I believe that all of them are passionate. You have to be. It's not for the huge salary. That's not why you run. It's because you truly want to make a difference. And so, I mean, I think they're doing a great job. You're not always going to get applause from everyone, but overall, I would give them a good letter grade, B+.
Mr. Guy?
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job. I know Karen, I know Kathy, I know Mayor Washington, I know Jim Davis. And I think all of them are really hardworking, good people. And I think they do a good job. So I'm going to go with A minus because I don't want to put you too high.
Now each candidate will give their closing remarks and we'll work our way from Mr. Rathbone down.
Okay, you've heard my pitch for health screening kids in order to prevent the drugs from causing the terrible harms that they're causing. And the way you do that is because I'm running for the board, is you vote for me and tell everybody that's interested in cleaning up this danger in the schools to vote for me. And the second I get in there with this handful of votes, I'll go to see the superintendent and the board, and I'll suggest to them, you got to give me a hearing now. I'll show you what I've accumulated in 50 years of writing extensively and working with legal people and school people and everything else. This is doable. It's easy. It's cheap. It's popular with the people that have experienced it. If you want to clean them up, you got to get me elected. That's it.
He's a tough act to follow. So I've talked a little bit tonight about, why I'm running, what I would bring to the Board of Education. But really what it comes down to is I want to be an advocate for you. I want to be an advocate for parents, teachers, our students. And I have a commitment to trying to help and serve our youth. I would like to say that I'm an advocate for parents. And sometimes I do speak to the students. They'll see me wearing my Josh Guy for School Board button and they're quite interested. So I think that's all.
So typically I don't read things, but I'm going to read it because I'm so passionate, I'll mess it up. First, I'd like to say that I love St. Mary's County. I think it's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great school system. And when you work for another school system, you really appreciate this county school system. So I want to start with that, and then I want to read this. So now you've seen what I stand for and how I intend to push for necessary changes in the St. Mary's County public school system through hard work and commitment from the top down. The students of this county deserve the best education, and parents deserve to feel confident in what their kids are being taught. The role of parents in this county is indispensable and can never be understated, and we need to ensure that we listen to parents' concerns and do our best to giving them the support and transparency they deserve. To the teachers of this county, I have been one myself. I would like to showcase some of the problems they face and how we can support them, and in turn, better facilitate student learning. I'm a strong proponent of putting a stop to the frequent disruptions that are increasing in many classrooms, and I also wish for more SROs to keep our children safe while learning. Part of this means teaching the importance of respect to our students and leading by a good example as adults. The school system needs to speak unity between the students, parents, and educators of this county and focus on getting students the best education as well as opportunities for them to be productive individuals in our society. One of my main grievances as a college professor is the abundance of students who are not prepared for the college level workload and expectations, and I wish to change that and see more of this county's students reach for higher levels of education and excellence. Together, we can give our students the resources and chances they need to pursue career options in professional fields while feeling confident in their education. This is the position I intend to stand on as a member of the school board, and I hope that I have earned your vote. Thank you.
Now we can clap. So thank you. Thank you. Can we now have the candidates for Board of Education Board of Education District 2 come to the table, and Katie Werner will be moderating the District 2 Board of Education forum.
Yeah. I can go.
I had to piss somebody off.
you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The hat is Scott. That was impressive, I will have to say.
Yeah, well, they sit on so long. I was too, wait,
Almost an hour.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with the District 2 candidates for Board of Ed. We have Kathy Allen, Elena Brewer, and Anthony Laturzo. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Now we will have each candidate give their opening remarks, and we'll start with Miss Allen.
I'm going to stand up. Being 5 feet tall, you kind of get blocked by stuff like this. My name is Kathy Allen, and I am a candidate for re-election to the Board of Education. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the library, the NAACP, and the Center for Democracy for hosting this forum this evening. I think it's really important for people to be able to hear directly from the candidates. I have a BS in nursing from the University of Virginia, and I worked as a critical care nurse, caring for infants, children and adults. I've taught classes on critical care to all kinds of medical professionals. My family and I have called St. Mary's County home since 1996. Our 2 children graduated were educated in the St. Mary's County Public Schools, now gainfully employed for the government. I have been consistently active in the school system, beginning soon after our arrival. I'm a past president of the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, which provides professional development, advocacy, and member services to school boards across the state. I've testified on education issues before committees of the General Assembly. I've also spoken to the State Board of Education on a variety of issues affecting students, including testing mandates and student discipline. It's important that the voice of our community is heard in places that impact our schools. I've been that voice, because I have the time, knowledge, and commitment to do so. We now face one of the most challenging mandates of my time as a school board member, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. While there are a number of positive things to come out of the legislation, there are many issues with it, not the least of which is putting many decisions in the hands of the state rather than here in our county where they belong. I believe that there will have to be changes made to the legislation, and my experience and knowledge puts me in a very good position to be able to move the legislation in a way that returns control to the school system while preserving the intent of the legislation. I've worked hard to understand issues and ask the questions that will help our community understand as well. I'm a frequent visitor to schools and school events, so I know why we do what we do and how we do it. I'm proud of the work we've done to improve student achievement, offer multiple advanced courses of study, increase offerings at the Tech Center, increase technology, support struggling students, improve the graduation rate, keep class size reasonable, and especially to improve communication, responsiveness, and transparency, and to try our best to solve budget challenges from within. I hope to continue that work, and I look forward to answering your questions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Hi, my name is Elena Brewer. I'm a mother of 3 children currently in elementary, middle, and high school here in SMCPS, and I'm running for District 2. As a teacher myself, I have experience teaching children, teens, and adults on both sides of the Atlantic because I was born and raised in the former USSR and experienced public education during and after the fall of the Soviet Union and in the United States. I have seen what works, what doesn't, what is destructive, and what builds a child, teen into a successful adult. As a parent, I'm a great interrogator of my children. And I want to know what my children know. I want to know what they believe. I want to know what they think, how they think, everything about them. And in doing that, I discovered that my children had signs of indoctrination, which disturbed me greatly because I escaped that and I came to this country. It is in the USA's freedom, the Christian heritage, the content of character, not color of skin, the respect of the individual that made me fall in love with this country and its people. This is a military community. They are paying a very high price for defending our country. So I want to be their voice and help protect their children. I'm running for school board because I want to promote excellence, excellence, excellence in education and never indoctrination. Number one, I want to stop the sexualization and indoctrination of children. And when I speak of indoctrination, I mean radical gender theory, climate alarmism, racism, white guilt, and many such things. I want the books in schools to be age appropriate. Don't talk banned. You don't know what that means. I know what banned means. Age appropriate books only in every school library, and remove every book that promotes radical gender theory, which is very, very destructive. I want to review all online platforms used by the school system and remove all content that is not age appropriate and sexualizes children. I want to promote professionalism in teaching, conduct, and dress code among teachers and students. Teachers should not wear clothing, jewelry, or have classroom decor that promotes LGBTQ, as they do in some of our schools. Teachers should not have pronouns on their doors, nor question the students what pronouns they think they have. I speak 3 languages. Would you like my 3 pronouns in 3 different languages? I don't think so. I want to protect the innocence of our children and their God-given identity of male or female.
Thank you.
I will go from there.
Mr. Tirzo?
Hi, thank you. First of all, I'm Anthony Latirzo. I'm running for school board. Thank you to the library, to the League of Women Voters, and to the NAACP for hosting us tonight. Thank you, esteemed colleagues, members of the community, and school board candidates and school board officials. I am running for school board, as you know, for District 2. I'm a parent with 2 children that are currently in St. Mary's County Public Schools, and changes need to be made in our school community now. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I am a lacrosse coach, and I'm a 20-year Navy veteran. My background is in program management of international programs where I manage large budgets focused on cost, schedule, and performance, and multi-million-dollar programs and budgets. 12 years ago, my wife and I, my wife is from this county, she was raised here, went through all the St. Mary's County Public Schools. We decided that this is going to be the best place to raise our 2 daughters. So we moved down here to this amazing community and continue to raise our daughters. Over the years, as our community has expanded, we have learned that there is a huge need for positive improvement in our schools for students, families, and teachers in St. Mary's County. As an active PTA member and current PTA president, I'm currently the PTA president for Lanterntown Middle School. I've been for 2 years now. I am a community volunteer and a coach. I have been listening to my fellow parents for several years now. There is urgent need for parents to stop sitting on the sidelines and to take action. I will repeat that. There is an urgent need for parents to stop sitting on the sidelines and take action regarding their school children and their school careers. I've decided to run for the Board of Education to help make an impact in our community and to help the future of our schools and students. Schools are overcrowded. Teachers do not have the supplies or the resources they need to be successful. The administrators' hands are tied when it comes to discipline. And as the community has significantly grown over the years and changed, the schools have not kept up. I also would like to look at term limits for Board of Education and others as well as part of my campaign. But I want to hear from the community. Are you a mother, a father, a grandparent, aunt, uncle that is raising your students in the school system? Are you a teacher, administrator that feels your voice is not being heard? What are your concerns? What keeps you awake at night? What expectations do you feel are being missed by our current board right now? Please reach out to me. Let's make a change in our school system. Our children have a great future. I want to provide excellence in our schools without skipping a beat. I'm a drummer, so that's kind of my little tagline. So thank you again for having us. Look forward to the discussion. Thanks.
This question is for everyone, and we'll start with Ms. Brewer. If elected, how will you manage the workload along with your current jobs, especially those working outside the county?
I am not currently employed. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I volunteer a lot, and so this will be quite easy for me because I do enjoy working hard in many different areas, and so yes, it would be quite easy.
Mr. Laterzo?
That applies to me, I suppose. I work for the Navy. I work for the Navy International Programs Office up at the Navy Yard in Washington, D.C. So I would need to make some adjustments. I am a director up there, so I have a little leniency and ability to adjust my work schedule. So I know some of the board's meetings are during the daytime and some are at night, but I can certainly adjust what I need to attend meetings and be there for the community. Over.
Ms. Allen?
I think people would be really surprised to know how much time we spend, not just in board meetings, but I spend a great deal of time with committees at up in Annapolis, the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, on their legislative committee and others that really work to make sure that we are being strong advocates for the school systems. What is important to me is that I've been able to spend time making sure that a rural conservative position is heard loud and clear. With all due respect to my esteemed colleagues from places like Montgomery and Howard, Baltimore County and such, the issues that they face are much different than the issues that we face. And it is very important to me to make sure that that voice is heard. And I've been very effective in doing so because I know what to say, how to say it, and to make the points that need to be made. And I've made some significant changes and differences in what's going on in across the state in doing so. And it's because I have the time to do it. It's important to me to be in the schools.
This question is for Mr. Laterzo. What would you change to make teachers less of a disciplinarian and allow them to focus on teaching?
That's a great question. So first, like I mentioned earlier, it starts at home. I think that is going to be the key to any of these discipline issues that are having now. My kids, like I said, my kids go to middle school and there are fights every day. Every single day there's fights. Kids are being taken out of the school, sent to teen court or a juvenile court. I forget what it's called, but serious offenses, serious fighting, assault happening every day. So I want to start there. I think it's important to engage the community, engage parents, try to get them back into the classroom, so to speak, not to interfere, but engaging the parents, I believe, is the first step into solving behavior problems so we can let teachers be teachers and not disciplinarians, so to speak, and worry about fighting and all the things that are happening in schools to this day.
This question is for Ms. Allen. How would you describe current levels of parental involvement in the schools?
There are many opportunities that parents take to participate in things in the schools, certainly through the PTAs, volunteer opportunities and such. But this board has really made efforts to make sure that parents have the opportunity and are encouraged to participate in committees such as the calendar committee and the code of conduct committee and others, so that their voices can be a part of the conversation. It's a very important part of the conversation and one we take very seriously. To the point about fights in the schools, I will tell you that board members get cognito reports about any fight that goes on in the school. And so this idea that there are fights in the schools every day, there might be, hey, we disagree on this, but we are not getting reports that there are fights in the schools every day. And we are well informed as to what's going on in the schools.
Okay, this question is for Ms. Brewer. Are you in favor of installing metal detectors in schools? If so, how would you propose to pay for this?
Yes, I am in favor of that. How to pay for it? Well, let's see how this budget is going to get paid for first, and then we can discuss that, because right now the deficit, I think, is quite a problem for the community. So I don't think that the proposing metal detectors and extra funding at this moment is going to do anything, but I'm quite in favor of it.
Okay. This is another question for Ms. Brewer.
Yeah.
When I read your statements on your campaign Facebook page, it seems you are very much aligned to Moms for Liberty. What of their policies would you want to see put in place in our schools? What other positions do you agree or disagree with regarding the Moms for Liberty's policy? Please be specific.
Well, I'm not aligned with Moms for Liberty. I'm not, so I don't know all of their policies. I know of them. I agree with some of their stuff, but I'm not aligned with them. On that note, the first and main one, which I think is the most important one, is age-appropriate books. Age-appropriate books, and to stop this nonsense that's happening, the indoctrination of children. Parents are afraid to talk because they're going to be labeled. Parents contact me separately on Facebook. They private message me and they say, thank you, keep doing it. But everyone is afraid. Everyone is afraid to lose their jobs if they speak out. Hey, guess why I am not being hired right now? Because I'm speaking out. And so this is the biggest problem that we have, and nothing else will take care of it. Nothing else will solve our violence. Nothing else will solve if we do not address the sexualization of children in public schools.
This question is for Mr. Latirzo. What is your plan to pay for new schools, which cost millions?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I don't know if we'll ever get there. And I hate to say the word that is, instead of buying or building new schools, redistricting has come to mind. That's a terrible thing to do. I don't think anybody wants to do that, but the schools are overcrowded. Classrooms are overcrowded or getting to capacity. So we need to figure something else out. If we need to ask for more money from the commissioners, then maybe that's something that's on the table. I don't think anything should be left off the table. I think that we need to take a look at things and look at class sizes. I think that's going to affect a lot of things, whether it's fighting on a daily or not daily basis, and the quality of education that each child is getting. It needs to be looked at. So nothing should be left off the table.
Okay, this question is for Ms. Allen. How much time do you spend on school board work?
It depends on the week. Some weeks it may be 10 or 15 hours. Other weeks, there have been times where I am spending 40 or more hours per week. It is meetings, but it's also keeping abreast of what's going on in the state, what's going on in the nation, and understanding how it's going to impact us. So I'm somebody who believes in being a lifelong learner, and I'm spending a lot of time learning.
This is another question for Ms. Allen. What do you plan to do different this term?
I'm always trying to be better at being a good listener, helping people understand the system, and asking the questions that need to be asked, so that we have the complete information we need in order to make decisions. I'm in schools, I'm talking to parents. This being St. Mary's County, everybody knows everybody. I often say I can sneeze in Hollywood, they'll say, God bless you in Leonardtown. Believe me, my kids don't like to go shopping with me, never did, because I don't make it through a store without stopping to talk with parents and others about what's going on in our system. And I don't see myself changing that.
This question is for Ms. Brewer. How are your children being indoctrinated? Please give specific examples.
Sure, I actually have many pictures. How much time do we have? I will give you just a few examples, right? Because we don't have the time. But here's, for example, in social studies in elementary school, right? Right here, there's no longer the month of June. Did you know that? The month of June doesn't exist on the calendar because it's Pride Month. And so that's what the kids have to study during the month of June. And by the way, they have a glossary of terms: LGBTQ, activist, elementary school, right? Contribution, equal rights, riot, support. I mean, this is the gloss. This is elementary school, by the way. Look at the, this is social studies. The first thing up here is activist. Do you send your kids to elementary school to become activists? I don't want to, but this is what's happening in elementary school right now. I don't think we realize how much we are changing the way they think. They're gonna hate our country if we do this.
Yes. Mr. Laterza, this question is for you. You mentioned wanting to prioritize school funding. What specifically would you like to see in the budget that is not currently funded?
Good question. Well, I'm certainly am in favor of increasing teacher salaries. I don't think anybody that's here tonight will disagree with that. So I would say we could probably even increase it even more, but I know we're limited. So again, there's lots of issues that all the candidates are interested in. So school security is a good one. I think the schools are pretty secure. To be honest with you, I think kids are maybe what's not secure about it. I do not want to see things taken away. I think somebody mentioned earlier about like sports, the liberal arts, music. None of that should be eliminated. So the things that should be included, school lunches should be better. I think that for sure. We're the brunt of, I think, the world's jokes as far as school lunches. So let's make the kids a little more nutritious, a little better school lunches. My kids have come home with curdled milk and moldy applesauce. So something needs to change there. Transportation, a little bit more money towards transportation. Thank you.
Okay, this question is for both Ms. Brewer and Mr. Laterza. We'll start with Ms. Brewer. What homework have you been doing to overcome the steep learning curve of working in the education system? What was an AHA for you? AHA for you?
Can you repeat that question again?
What homework have you been doing to overcome the steep learning curve of working in the education system? What was an AHA for you?
I guess I'll take a stab. I assume that maybe because I'm not a teacher or an educator, somebody's thinking like I have a lot to learn or something, but I don't know. I don't know what that is. So I'll just say steep learning. I watched several board meetings. I've learned a lot. The budget process was a lot more in depth than I thought. Learned a lot there. I do have a meeting with Dr. Smith tomorrow. It was supposed to be yesterday, but I had to go into work, as well as all three principals from the high schools. So I expect to glean a lot from those folks, and I plan to do that as well with some of the middle schools. So steep learning curve. Yeah, I'm not an educator. I'm not in the school systems, but I'm going to take a step back, learn, listen, soak it all in, and do the best I can with my fellow board members and make the best decisions that I can moving forward for our kids and our community.
I have a degree in music. I have a degree in English, and I have a master's in strategic communication. So I've taught students, I've taught children, I've taught teens, I've taught adults ever since I remember, even in middle school. Of course, you wouldn't do that here, but even in middle school, teachers would come get me and take me to elementary class to take care of the kids while they were going, running errands. This is Soviet Union. Because I was not born in this country, I have to learn everything. So I read extensively. I study, I research, I ask questions. I'm very much interested in everything that's happening in our county, in our state, and I'm very concerned. And I'm simply doing my duty, which I think that's what you're supposed to do as an American. If you're concerned, then you need to step up, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay, this question is for Ms. Allen. With your experience on the board, how are you making the Maryland Blueprint work for us in St. Mary's?
That is a challenge for me. We are doing all that we can to implement it in a way that adheres to the intent, but works within our system the best we can. We're faced with challenges by virtue of the fact that efforts that are supposed to be coming forward from the Accountability and Implementation Board and the Maryland State Department of Education are not being completed, which is hindering our ability to do the work that we need to do. Where we can raise teacher salaries, and the commissioners are working hard to help us do that, we are working to do so. My frustration is that the blueprint wants us to stop doing things that we know are we can prove are very successful in helping our students. And they want us to redirect that funding to places they tell us.
This question is for all candidates, and we'll start with Mr. Latirzo. What is the authority of the board?
Saw someone waving. Sorry. Okay.
What is the authority of the board?
Yeah, so the board, first and foremost, is going to approve the budget, right? That's what the budget is, just what happened recently. Thankfully, it was a wonderful process that I've been following it on social media. So I think that's the biggest thing. Next thing is being an advocate for the teachers and the customers who are ultimately the parents and the students. So that's what I know is the charter of the board. And I would be grateful to be, if I was voted, to do the best I can to represent St. Mary's County Public Schools in District 2.
Ms. Allen?
The authority of the board is to hire the superintendent. He is our one and only employee. We are sort of the 30,000-foot level, and the superintendent is charged with operationalizing everything. We approve the budget, we approve policies, but we don't get into the weeds in terms of some of the other things that go on. We have a process for almost everything, whether it's what textbooks are adopted, what books are in the library, how those are distributed, and so forth. What's most important is to understand that we are driven by the laws of this state, whether it's through the legislature or the what's coming down as policy and regulation by the Maryland State Department of Education. And in many cases where we might choose to do something differently, we take an oath of office to uphold the law, and we are required to do so.
Ms. Brewer?
I mean, I wouldn't follow that, but I would also add that my understanding is that the board holds the superintendent accountable. And I would like to hold the superintendent accountable. The superintendent was in Chopticon at the play She Kills Monsters, a play that the girl, she who kills monsters, she was exploring her sexuality. This isn't a high school. This is a Chopticon. And parents are okay with this? I don't think they are. But our superintendent was there. Our chairman of the board was there. So we need to hold the superintendent accountable, but it seems that we have a board member that needs to be held accountable as well. So this is where we go. This is where we are.
Okay, this question is for Ms. Allen. Thank you for wanting to serve another term on the Board of Ed. What do you want to get done or see happen during your next term?
I want to make changes to the legislation that is the blueprint. While, as I've said, there are many fine things about it, there are a number of things that are extremely aspirational and really would not fly in this community. And so I want to continue my work in order to make appropriate changes to that legislation so that the intent is followed, but that the decisions are here in this community and not in Annapolis or in Baltimore.
This question is for both Ms. Brewer and Mr. Latirzo. How many Board of Ed meetings have you attended as a candidate, and what did you learn? We'll start with Mr. Latirzo.
Yeah, I have not attended any in person. I've watched 2 or 3 of them. And I think the biggest takeaway that I've learned was the budget process and going through explaining how intricate that was. Very fascinating.
I've attended one in person, but I watched them online. Actually, I try to keep up with them quite on a weekly basis. And I'm actually quite grateful that our board does have that available, that parents can watch and they actually know what's happening, because it's quite difficult in the evening, especially as a parent sometimes, depending on what you have going on to be there. But we can attend online, and I think that's very beneficial to all of us.
This question is for Ms. Brewer. Explain the difference between an IEP and 504.
IEP, my understanding it's an individual education plan for special education students. 504, I'm not sure. But I don't have children in special education, but I'd like to learn. So I'm more than willing to learn.
Okay, this question is for everyone, and we'll start with Mr. Latirzo. How does the board make decisions in items coming before it?
Well, the board will get together and have a vote, have a discussion, open discussion, and then look at both sides of the issues, hear arguments for and against, and then come up with a decision.
Ms. Allen?
The board receives a great deal of information on certain things. We receive an information briefing first in open session. Some items such as policies, program of studies, other things, any pending decisions, we have a public hearing after it's presented as an information item so that parents and community members have the opportunity to weigh in either in person or via email. And then we ask questions as it becomes an action item. I also spend a lot of time reading outside of that so that I know what questions to ask if I need to. And we always have our discussions in person at the board table in public because it is important. It's also the law, Open Meetings Act. We do everything in public.
Ms. Brewer?
Would you read that question again?
How does the board make decisions in items coming before it?
How I would love to know how the board makes decisions. In fact, I've expressed many concerns to the board and I never got a response. I would love to know how the board makes decisions. There were decisions that needed to be made about the issues that I've raised. I would love to know how the board makes decisions. So that's where I am.
This question is for Ms. Allen. What has been your biggest challenge as a board member?
Sometimes when we feel passionate about something, our passion overcomes sometimes rational thought or the way we present something. When parents especially feel passionate about concerns and they come forward, sometimes those concerns are difficult for them to share. And I've learned over time to listen carefully, even when that passion and anger erupts, because there are always nuggets of information that I need to take away to either make a decision, make an impact, or help that person understand what path they might take to get an outcome that they want to have. When you're first faced with that, that is a real challenge. But I did it.
Okay. This question is for Ms. Brewer and Mr. Latirzo, and we'll start with Mr. Latirzo. What makes you qualified to advocate for special education students?
Well, I could say it's near and dear to my heart without going into any details. It affects my family directly. With some regard to IEP and a 504 plan. So I am a little bit familiar with that process and what those are. One of my daughters was in the program with at Duke Elementary School. She was helping the handicapped folks in there. I think it was called the SAIL, no, not SAIL, Compass. Thank you. Compass program. So been not intimately, but pretty involved through my daughter, involved with that. And now that, one of them has plans in place, I would be an advocate as getting these folks the help they need, the resources they require, and discussing and having conversations, in-depth conversations with all the stakeholders involved to make sure that the children get what they need to succeed.
Ms. Brewer?
Well, first of all, I'm a parent, and as a parent, I understand when another parent is concerned. I I've met with a lady who has a special ed kid just last week, and she was quite angry, quite upset. And the reason why she was angry and upset is because no one is listening to her. And so, what I can bring to the table is, number one is because I'm a parent, I understand. Number two is I want to understand what's going on and bring a solution. As a person, in my abilities, my personal abilities are a person who solves problems. That's what where my strength is. And I will be more than happy to be an advocate and to help to solve whatever problems, concerns a parent has, even if it's with special education.
Okay. This is for all candidates, and we'll start with Mr. Latirzo. How do you intend to address the uptick in school violence and related uptick in violence among youth?
Yeah, I think we've all talked about that tonight. I believe that I firmly believe that it starts in the home. Parents, guardians, aunts, uncles, getting them engaged, getting them re-engaged back to their kids in school. I think that's where it's going to start. Hopefully, if we could get our head around that and get parents more engaged. Like I said, I'm in the PTA. I can't get volunteers for dances. Parents are not engaged at school. I've heard from teachers that when a complaint goes home or teacher calls home, they say, it's your problem now. I'll deal with it when they're after school, but during school, they're your problem. That's unacceptable. So it needs to start home. I really believe that if we can get the home engaged, it'll trickle into the schools and some of these problems will go away. And if not, then we could adjust and take another step and look at things and how we could fix things. And it could be various other reasons or other courses of action.
Ms. Allen?
You know, the first thing I would do if I could would be get rid of social media. I think it's one of the worst things that has ever happened. Yes, it's lovely to be in touch with, you know, distant cousins and friends and family, but there are better ways. The system has had to put in place many behavioral health supports because our children in this day and age are being faced with things we have never imagined, and it's frightening. The school system is doing its best to try to address that, to make sure that parents are ready and know the signs of what they need to be looking for. Mr. Latirzo is right. We need parents to be more involved. But how to make that happen? We've tried feeding them. We've tried doing all kinds of things. It is a real challenge. Everyone's lives are packed, and that's just where they are. We will continue to help our students the best we can. And I encourage everyone to be a part of that.
Ms. Brewer?
I actually agree with both what was said. Parents are key here. I personally had to deal with an issue with my son. And it wasn't the violence, but it was him being bullied. And I mean, from others. And what I had to do, it was a sacrifice, but I stayed on it. And weeks in and weeks out, I'm trying to understand what is going on. So parents are key here. But I also think we need to be careful what is going on in our kids' heads. What I'm trying to say is every single holiday that we have on the calendar, somehow kids are taught, not all teachers, but somehow will stir up a little hate, a little racism, a little white guilt, a little gender stuff. Every single holiday is used to teach our kids not to love their country, but to hate someone. And you might disagree. Come, I'll share with you how this is done.
This question is for Ms. Brewer. How do you justify your openly hostile stance towards the LGBTQ plus community with being a Board of Ed member who should advocate for all students?
Students are minors. Stop. Sexualization of students is not okay. Students are minors. Okay? If a parent wants to do whatever they want to do with their child, that's fine. But students are minors. It is our duty to protect them. And guess what? When you put this poison in their heads, it destroys them. It destroys everything about them. Look at what's happening. Look at the violence. Look at the depression. Look what's happening to our kids. It's not because we're teaching them to love America. No, we're teaching them to hate. Hate people, hate that one, hate that one. How about we return back to the basics of education? Excellence in education. How about we return back to math, reading, arithmetic, virtues? Going to school not because you just want to have a job, but because you want to have virtues. How about we return back to American exceptionalism? How about that? Instead of promoting some sexual deviancy.
This is going to be the last question. It's for all. And we're going to start with Ms. Allen. How do you plan to address significant budget shortfalls in projected 24-25 budgets and beyond?
We have worked with the county commissioners. We have a very successful relationship with them. We don't always agree, but I'm happy that we can work together. We have been very clear with them over time from the start of the blueprint as to what it was going to require. We are the only county in the state that has a 4-year agreement with our associations. That's unheard of. We're now on our third 4-year contract. So we can tell the commissioners year over year what employee costs are going to be, and employee costs are 88% of our budget. That's significant. We continue to have conversations with them, and once their budget numbers are finalized, then our budget numbers will be finalized.
Ms. Brewer?
Could you read the question one more time?
How do you plan to address significant budget shortfalls in projected 24-25 budgets and beyond?
Well, first of all, I don't think we need virtual school. We are okay, right? We were okay without it. And so I don't think we need that. Another thing is we keep taking the bait, the state mandates or gives us something, oh, a grant, oh, this, and we take the bait. And then we find out, oh, wait, by the way, there's no funding for it. Well, I think that we need to be careful there as well. Another problem is that I think we have a little too many counselors in schools. My kids come home and always they talk about is, oh, mental health, mental health, mental health. No, that is health is medical, and that is for me, a parent, to deal with the medical issues of my kids. So if there's an issue, then I, the parent, need to deal. Kids don't need to be constantly indoctrinated with that. But I also have some specific things that I'd like to talk about is the in-school health, school-based health centers, if I get to.
Mr. Latirzo?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's only so much money to go around, right? So what are you going to do? There has to be hard discussions, which I'm sure have already occurred. The budget was approved, not the full amount. I understand that, but again, taking a look at maybe some admin expenses, maybe central office. I'm going to say this; it's not going to be popular, but some salaries, superintendent salary, things such as that nature. Maybe that needs to take a closer look at across the board, and just have those hard discussions on where we need to get some more funding from. Ask the commissioners for more funding. Maybe we don't need a dog park somewhere. Maybe that can go towards the school, understanding it's different pots of money, but we just need to prioritize the schools, prioritize the kids, the education, technology. They're the future.
Now we're going to do our closing remarks, and we're going to start with Mr. Latirzo.
Okay. First, again, I want to say thanks to everyone for coming out, sticking around. Thank you to the library. Thank you to the NAACP and the League of Women Voters for having us. Thank you for my fellow candidates and board members. I appreciate the time and effort. I'm committed to betterment of the community. I have been for about 12 years since I lived down in St. Mary's County. I have strong leadership and financial management background. I do have an MBA. I have a level head, and it allows me to see both sides of arguments and both sides of the aisle, so to speak. I work in international agreements. I negotiate contracts and I negotiate agreements with our foreign partners. I sell them helicopters, aircraft, and weapons. I've done it for about 12 years as well, and I've been successful. So I think I could navigate through a board, I hope, or I'd like to try. Our children are the future. They need more from us, and we can do better. Again, they are the future. Together, we need to make them a priority. I think some changes due on the Board of Education. And if you agree with me, please, I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you for your time and support. Look forward to seeing you out there. Thank you.
Miss Allen?
I'd like to thank all the entities for sponsoring this evening's forum and thank all of the candidates for their participation and the folks that have stuck it out this evening to hear what we've had to say. I hope this evening I've shown that I'm passionate about education. I'm knowledgeable about our system and about our issues. I've been consistently active in schools, volunteering in schools, working with the PTA, serving on a variety of committees, and attending Board of Education meetings long before I ever decided to run. My experience as an ICU nurse has taught me to closely examine issues, learn all I can, and then to use my knowledge to positively impact any situation I encounter. I strongly believe that every child can succeed when given the tools and support needed to learn. Parents are an integral part of helping their children succeed. During my time as a board member, we've made great strides in providing a wealth of information to parents about what their children are learning through the Home Access Center and Schoology, among other avenues, in order to ensure that parents are connected to what their children are learning. It's been my honor to serve the citizens of St. Mary's County and our students and staff during my tenure. I believe my experience, knowledge, energy, and enthusiasm contribute to the success of the board and to this school system. I'd like the opportunity to continue the work I started, and I hope the citizens of the county will continue to support me by voting for Kathy Allen for Board of Education in the upcoming primary. Thank you very much.
Ms. Brewer?
Thank you for this opportunity. This is my first time to ever participate in anything like this, especially in this country. It's a joy for me to be here. I'm grateful to have been a St. Mary's County resident for about 7 years now. We're raising our family here, our kids. I live through them. Everything about them is what excites me. Whatever it is that's wrong with what's going on with them is what upsets me. And I decided to run for school board because I was fed up. I decided to run because I was very concerned. And I decided to run because I was not the only one, because I've heard so many people share and everyone is afraid. And I have a message for you. You live in the freest country of the world. And it is time for us to step up. It is time for us to do our due diligence, to our duty, to fulfill our duty as parents, and to come and to protect our children. My job as a parent is to protect the innocence of my children. And I think that my job on the school board should continue to be the same. We must protect our children. Someone said that children are a letter that we leave for the future generations. I want to leave a good, a well-written letter, not just through my kids, but all the kids that go to SMCPA schools. You know, communists used to use a tactic in prisons when they would play tapes on a loop, telling a prisoner, a Christian prisoner, you're not a Christian, you're not a Christian, you're a comrade, you're a comrade. But do you know, even communists did not dare attack a God-given identity of male and female. They attacked religious identity, they attacked everything else, but they did not attack God-given identity of male and female. Do we realize what is going to happen to our kids if we allow things to go on the way they are going on right now? It will be my privilege to represent you and your family on the school board.
Thank you, guys. One more to go. These are all the.
You helped me. I appreciate it. Appreciate your help. I was going blank. I was like, what in the world?
I think I answered it right because I still think it was wrong.
Ugh. Now the candidates for the Board of Education District 4, will you please come up? Yeah. Mhm. Huh? You're the only one here. So, I don't know. I think one is participating via Zoom. This was supposed to be the only one. So, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We have Charles L.V. Carrington here. Unfortunately, we knew that Mary Washington was unable to attend this evening due to personal circumstances. And unfortunately, Mr. Dries is also unable to attend. So after a brief conference, we are going to reschedule this candidate forum for Board of Education District 4 so that everybody has the opportunity to be heard and that you can be an informed voter. So thank you for sticking it out with us. We appreciate your attendance. Again, a big thank you to the Lexington Park Library and the hardworking staff that made this evening possible. And now that you are the best type of voters, the educated type for District 4, but please come back to the next forum so that you can hear from our candidates for Board of Education District 4, but be certain to vote during the early voting by mail or on May 14th. So please. Yes, and as I stated earlier, the questions that did not get asked will be presented to each of the candidates. So they will have the opportunity to respond or address those questions. But thank you, Mr. Carrington, for saying.
It's on.
And thank you to everybody attending. Drive safely and cautiously on your way home.
At the very least. I mean, at the bare minimum, I mean, at least this means that this shows that I'll show up for our families, right? I'm here for the community, clearly.
Well, we're trying to be fair, so we are going to wait for everybody to do their opening. We have an opening for Ms. Washington. We don't have an opening for Mr. Dries. So, Mr. Carrington, I know that you've been here and patiently waiting. And we will anticipate your opening statement at the next candidate forum. But this is Charles L.V. Carrington, running for District 4.
Well,